in the darkest corners of America's history. There are crimes that refuse to fade, cases that live on in whispers, late-night theories, and sleepless memories. They are not just unsolved, they are unsettling, unrelenting, and unforgettable. In 2025, despite the advancement of DNA technology, artificial intelligence, in criminal profiling, and surveillance reaching nearly every corner of urban life, these murders remain etched in silence, mocking the very justice system sworn to bring peace. It begins with the cold air over a wooded trail in Washington state, where a jogger vanishes without a trace. Her smartwatch stops recording at 6:17 a.m. Authorities find her running shoes lined neatly near a log, as if placed there by invisible hands. No signs of struggle, no blood, only one strange clue. A Polaroid photo, half buried in the mud, showing a smiling woman tied to a chair, someone who looks nothing like the victim. The image is dated 1987. The case grows darker by the day. A timeline with no anchor, leaving investigators chasing shadows across decades. Down in rural Kentucky, a farmhouse burns in the early hours of January. When the flames are doused, 4 bodies are found, but none are the missing homeowners. The children discovered in the blaze aren't related to the family. Dental records reveal identities that span 3 different states, all declared missing years before. But no sign of the couple who lived there, no ransom, no trace. It's as if they vanished into smoke, orchestrating a disappearing act so intricate it leaves seasoned detectives shaking their heads. Who were the children, and why that house? In suburban Illinois, a string of murders leaves behind a chilling signature porcelain dolls, dressed to resemble each victim. Placed precisely in the front yard a day before each body is discovered. The dolls are handmade, stitched with rare thread and embroidered initials. No fingerprints, no fiber, just a haunting countdown that law enforcement watches helplessly, powerless to stop the next inevitable death. The press calls it the Toymaker killings. To the families left behind, it's a slow, living nightmare, knowing someone out there watched their daughter, crafted her likeness, and planned her death long before it happened. Then there is the story of the vanishing voice, a podcaster, who gained national attention for uncovering cold case connections, only to become one herself. Her final episode ends mid-sentence. Her microphone records a faint, distorted whisper. Audio experts are baffled. The voice doesn't match any human spectrum. The room was locked from the inside. No forced entry. Only her notes remain scribbled names and arrows pointing to a theory too wild for public consumption. The files she was working on? Wiped clean. Backup drives destroyed, as if the truth she touched was too dangerous to exist. These stories form a pattern not yet understood, a tapestry of terror stitched across generations. They leave scars not only on families but on the very institutions sworn to protect them. Detectives who retire early, their sleep haunted by eyes they can't forget. Mothers who keep empty rooms just the way they were, waiting for a return that never comes. Communities that go quiet after dark, where children grow up learning to fear the unexplained. And through it all, the questions remain. Not just who but why. Why do some killers evade even the sharpest tools of justice? Why does closure seem like a myth in these darkest of crimes? And what if some answers were never meant to be found? Because in America's long history of justice, some stories defy resolution. They slip through the cracks, linger in the ether, and remind us of one terrifying truth. The most disturbing killers are the ones who were never caught. In the heart of New Mexico, beneath an endless desert sky, lies a stretch of highway known to locals as the Devil's Spine. It's desolate, quiet, too quiet. Over the past 12 years, at least 17 women have gone missing along this route, each between the ages of 20 and 35. Each last seen in a different city. It all vanished within a 5-mile radius of mile marker 87. Truckers pass through often. Patrol cars too. But no one sees a thing. What makes the case disturbing isn't just the growing body count, but what was left behind. In every case, one item always appears days later in the nearest church. A rosary broken, blood-stained and wrapped in a torn piece of clothing confirmed to belong to the missing woman. The symbolism haunts investigators. Is it ritual? A calling card? Something darker, something sacred, twisted into something profane. Far north, in a quiet suburb of Minneapolis, a different mystery festers. On Halloween night, 3 families receive anonymous letters. Each contains a single sentence. Your child won't see the dawn. Authorities dismiss them as a cruel prank. But by morning, a boy from each family is found dead. No signs of struggle, no forced entry. Toxicology shows no drugs. Just 3 lifeless children, eyes open, expressions frozen in peaceful terror. No fingerprints. No DNA. Nothing but a small smudge of ash on each child's left cheek, as though marked deliberately. Neighbors report seeing a person in a scarecrow costume wandering near the homes that night. Grainy doorbell footage captures a shadow. But it's the timestamp that disturbs most. It's always 3:33 a.m., no matter the location. The footage itself appears corrupted, like something or someone didn't want to be seen. In Florida, a coastal town suffers a string of bizarre deaths known simply as the Whisper Killings. Victims, all adults living alone, are found dead in their beds with no visible wounds, but their rooms are torn apart as if someone was searching for something. ... or sending a message. Audio devices left running overnight reveal one horrifying detail: a whispering voice repeating the victim's name, slowly, rhythmically, for hours before they died. The voice is barely human, raspy, garbled, and layered with what sound like other voices speaking beneath it. FBI profilers believe it may be an audio illusion. Others think it's something more. One surviving witness, a woman whose sister died just 1 room awake, claims she heard the whispers herself. She describes feeling frozen, unable to move, as if something stood by her bed and watched her all night long. What it said last, just before her sister stopped breathing, still echoes in her nightmares. You heard me? Now you're part of it. Back in California, a case that once faded into obscurity resurfaces. In 1996, a woman named Evelyn Price vanished after attending a music festival. The only clue was a single shoe found miles away in Death Valley. But in early 2025, hikers discover a makeshift grave hidden beneath a Joshua tree. Inside it, a preserved diary wrapped in cloth bearing Evelyn's name. The pages are chilling. She describes being trapped, watched, forced to write every day. She talks about others, people she's never seen but hears crying at night. She mentions a name repeatedly: the keeper. The last page is dated 2 years after she vanished. But Evelyn's body was never found. And DNA testing confirms none of the fingerprints on the diary belonged to her. These cases, scattered across states and decades, should be disconnected. But something deeper is emerging. An undercurrent, a repeating set of anomalies buried in police reports. The same symbols, the same numbers, the same recurring dreams reported by victims' families. Patterns too precise to ignore, too strange to explain. Private forums on the dark web light up with theories. Some say it's one killer with infinite reach. Others whisper of a cult operating in silence, using fear as currency. A few dare to suggest something even darker: an ancient intelligence hiding in plain sight, playing with human lives like a game. Law enforcement agencies are silent. Files go missing. Officers resign unexpectedly. And the few who speak out warn of consequences. One detective, retired now, agreed to an anonymous interview. His voice shakes as he speaks. There's something we're not supposed to see, not just because it's dangerous, but because it might already be inside of us. And so the question grows louder with each new unsolved murder. What are we not being told? Is this a coincidence of horror? Or a design too complex to understand? The stories are not over. In fact, they may just be beginning. Because the more we search, the more the darkness stares back. And next time, it might not be a stranger's story. It might be yours. The deeper we descend into the archive of unsolved horrors, the more the lines blur between coincidence and connection. These aren't just murders left behind by time, they are ongoing scars, bleeding through communities, whispering through forgotten evidence, and breathing beneath the surface of our modern world. They ask us to look again and again, till we realize we've been looking in the wrong direction all along. In the quiet hills of Pennsylvania, nestled behind rows of aging pines, lies the shattered shell of what was once the Briar Hill boarding school. Closed abruptly in 1994 after allegations of abuse, it has since become a favorite of urban explorers and amateur ghost hunters. But in the spring of 2025, 3 teenage explorers break in, live streaming their experience. What starts as a prank turns sinister, their feed glitches, their laughter stops, screen goes black. The next morning, only one of them returns covered in scratches, barefoot and unable to speak. Her fingernails are broken to the root, and in her palm she clutches a folded page torn from an old school registry. 9 names are circled. Every name belongs to a child who vanished between 1989 and 1993, each never found, never reported in local media, never acknowledged by the school or law enforcement. When investigators return to the scene, they find something new etched into the peeling paint of a basement wall. We never left. In Oregon, near the dense, dripping forests of Tillamook County, campers stumble upon a stone-circled well of boulders, precisely spaced, each bearing a number carved deeply into the surface. At the center, a fire pit smolders, still warm, but no one is around. Then they find it. A handwritten journal left behind, filled with frantic entries. It documents a group of 12 friends who had planned a weekend getaway, unaware of the area's grim folklore. As they began vanishing one by one, the last writer tried to leave a record, warning others. The final entry ends mid-sentence. He waits at the edge where the trees don't move. I think I'm next. I think Ian, that's it. No bodies, no survivors. Only a charred circle where the fire once burned, and 12 stones that seem to pulse with the weight of something unspeakable. Meanwhile, a string of unsolved murders in Detroit grows more disturbing by the month. The killer leaves no bodies. Only the clothing of each victim laid out on the pavement in perfect anatomical form: shirt, pants, socks, shoes. A chalk outline is drawn around the empty clothes, as if mocking forensic teams. Surveillance cameras around the crime scenes capture nothing. One victim's smartwatch records a final heartbeat at 2:46 a.m., then nothing. Just an ambient hum that audio technicians can't identify. One expert claims it closely resembles the frequency of deep-sea sonar used by submarines. Except these murders happen on dry land, and always on the 4th Tuesday of the month. By the time law enforcement makes the connection, it's already too late for the next victim. In Georgia, a woman named Clarissa Monk is found dead inside her home, an expression of pure terror frozen on her face. Autopsy reveals no cause of death, but on the wall above her bed, drawn in lipstick, is a strange symbol, an hourglass tipped on its side, with one half blackened. Her husband, missing for 2 weeks, is discovered 3 states away, living in a motel under a fake name. When questioned, he simply whispers, "She found the pattern. It was in the noise. It was never supposed to be heard." And it isn't just law enforcement that's noticing the unraveling. A retired professor of symbology from Yale, Dr. Henry Clem, publishes a controversial online paper linking a series of ancient sigils and patterns found at unrelated crime scenes across the country. He's dismissed by colleagues as a conspiracy theorist. But days later, his home burns to the ground. Investigators find no remains, no accelerant, no proof he was ever there. But inside a fireproof safe, one item survives: a photograph of 3 crime scenes. Each displays a shadow figure in the background. Different states, different years, the same silhouette. Could it be possible, some ask, that a single presence haunts all of these crimes? A force? A mind? Or something older than memory itself? As patterns emerge and cases once thought isolated begin to merge into something larger, a chilling theory takes shape. Not in law enforcement offices, but in internet forums, private message chains, and encrypted audio files circulating in the darkest corners of the web. They call it the tapestry. It's an idea that every disturbing case, from the dolls in Illinois to the whispered deaths in Florida, the desert disappearances, the vanished children, are all threads, and someone or something is weaving them. Carefully, quietly, waiting. It is not just about murder. It is about meaning. It's about design. And we've been part of it longer than we've known. So what happens when the pattern turns inward? When the thread leads not to another victim but to you? That's the question the next episode will ask. Because once you begin to see it, you can't look away. And if you listen too closely, you might start hearing your name in the whispers too. The human mind has an extraordinary ability to rationalize horror, to box it in, place a timeline on it, file it under a specific name, and move on. But what if that instinct is the very thing that blinds us to the truth? What if the most disturbing unsolved murders in U.S. history aren't isolated events, but coordinated brushstrokes on a canvas we've never dared to see in full? It begins again not with blood, but with silence. January 2025, Anchorage, Alaska. Well, I kinda like our word by Reader I guide. Nothing unusual in a city used to brutal winters. But when the grid comes back online 12 hours later, 3 homes are discovered unlocked. Lights on, fires still burning in the hearth, meals half-eaten, and in each home. Everyone is gone. Parents, children, pets, no signs of struggle, no broken windows, no footprints in the snow. What? Just the emptiness and a word carved into each family's dining table. Listen, FBI agents are flown in. Theories swirl. Witness protection, mass abduction, cult activity. But one agent leaks something horrifying, a voicemail found on one of the family's phones. It's never sent. Still saved in drafts. It's only 8 seconds long. A whisper barely audible, buried under static. He waits where we can't hear. Where the sound ends, he begins. 3,000 miles away, a seemingly unrelated case unfolds. A string of murders in Maine baffles authorities. Victims are found posed like classical sculptures. Placed in public gardens, their faces painted with ancient symbols once used in medieval alchemy. Each carries a note, sealed in wax, written in Latin. The translations vary, some philosophical, some cryptic, some deeply personal. The stone is awake. Time ends where echoes begin. One will return to complete the circle. None of the victims share any connection, overlapping timelines, no history of mental illness, no criminal records. Yet one detail breaks through the noise. All of them had posted in the same obscure Reddit thread titled, "Have you heard the hum?" The thread was deleted days after the first murder. Then, another anomaly. In Utah, a teen hacker named Marcus Graham vanishes from his locked bedroom. His laptop remains open. On the screen, a live code stream blinks, lines of numbers running endlessly. His parents find one word typed over and over: translate. Forensic teams extract fragments of a conversation from his encrypted drives. Hidden in steganographic images are partial messages, likely part of a larger conversation. They aren't dead, they're collected. It's not murder, it's design. The tapestry is aware. Marcus had been building a program, one that cross-referenced thousands of cold case files, audio frequencies, geographic coordinates, and ancient language patterns. Before he vanished, the program had isolated a point of convergence: Marfa, Texas. Marfa, an isolated desert town known for its unexplained mystery lights. Long attributed to atmospheric illusion or geological energy, but now something more ominous hovers over it. Residents begin reporting strange hums at night. Low rhythmic vibrations that shake window panes and stop clocks. Visitors claim to see shapes in the sky, triangular, pulsating, motionless. When the town's only radio station broadcasts a live interview with a local who claims the lights are connected to the missing, the signal cuts out. It's not just locally, but regionally. Emergency channels, satellite feeds, everything. For exactly 9 minutes, no explanation has ever been given. And then there's the tape. Found in a condemned building in Detroit by a squatter, it's an old VHS cassette, unmarked, wrapped in twine. The footage is distorted, grainy, but shows what appears to be a masked figure in an abandoned school, slowly walking room to room. At intervals, the voice of a child is heard, repeating the same phrase. "I remember now. I remember what he did." When digital analysts attempt to enhance the audio, an embedded frequency crashes the software. 2 of the analysts report auditory hallucinations. Days later, one of them is hospitalized after claiming the masked figure visited him in his sleep. He reportedly said the eyes were wrong. They weren't human. They were remembering things we forgot. And while the world turns, busy with headlines and politics, a growing underground movement spreads online. They call themselves the Archivista Collective of cyber investigators, codebreakers, linguists, and former law enforcement who believe the murders are not random. They are ritual, not satanic, not cultic, but purposeful. They believe we are being conditioned slowly, deliberately to accept something terrifying without knowing it. They claim the tapestry is nearing completion, that the final thread involves an event that hasn't happened yet, something global, something psychological. A mass shift triggered not by violence but by sound, and now, for the first time, a whistleblower from inside the FBI agrees to speak. Disguised, voice altered, he leaves a single statement before cutting all contact. You're looking for the killer, but the killer isn't a person, it's an idea. It doesn't hide in shadows, it hides in patterns. You were never meant to solve it. You were meant to witness it. As these words echo across the screen, maps light up with points of overlap, red dots blinking from Alaska to Florida, from Maine to the Mojave, each one marking a moment when the ordinary became unexplainable. Each one tied by evidence the public was never allowed to see. This is no longer just a story of murder. It's a warning. They say the truth will set you free. But some truths are prisons of their own cages built from patterns, silence, and the pieces we refuse to connect. And as the trail winds deeper into the shadows of America's most disturbing unsolved murders, a hidden chapter begins to reveal itself, one buried not in graveyards but in forgotten corridors, sealed files in a place the government swore never existed. It starts with a name that doesn't appear on any map. Facility B29, located in the Nevada desert, 12 miles west of the last known coordinates of an abandoned Cold War listening post, hidden beneath the camouflage of fake geological structures. Officially, it's a weather monitoring site. Unofficially, according to a leaked Department of Justice memorandum, it was a classified behavioral observation facility operating under Project Ambrosia, a program aimed at decoding the neurological effects of exposure to high-frequency sound patterns on criminal behavior. But the experiments were never limited to volunteers. That's the part they never wanted released. Documents obtained through whistleblower channels suggest that dozens of missing persons, cases dating back to the late 1980s, are directly linked to facility when an anonymous archivist sends leaked footage to investigative journalist Melissa Hart. The footage is rough digitized from analog tapes and appears to be taken from inside the facility. Fluorescent lights flicker overhead. Metal doors hiss open and closed. Inside the rooms, padded walls, surgical instruments, and glass tanks filled with fluid. Suspended in the tanks, barely visible through the murk, are objects, or bodies, not fully human. Elongated limbs, blackened veins. One appears to have no eyes, just smooth skin where the socket should be. Melissa disappears 2 weeks after releasing a portion of the footage. Her apartment is found ransacked, but nothing stolen. Her hard drives are melted literally. It's burned from within, like they overheated under impossible conditions. Her final message is a voicemail sent to a colleague. They told me to stop, that I was waking something. But I think it's already awake. We're just now hearing it breathe. Across the country, reports of unexplained disappearances rise by 23%. In the first quarter of 2025, all follow a similar pattern. Victims are last seen alone. Strange hum is reported by neighbors. In every case, law enforcement receives a phone call exactly 47 minutes after the person vanishes. The voice on the other end never identifies itself. It only says the same sentence. The thread was pulled. He is almost through. Meanwhile, a former FBI linguist reveals another disturbing connection: ancient Sumerian glyphs discovered at 3 separate crime scenes in New Mexico, Colorado, and Ohio. Each glyph translates to the same message. The pattern remembers. She's later hospitalized for a nervous breakdown, claiming the symbol began appearing in her dreams, etched into walls, carved into skin, whispered by voices coming through the static of her television set, even when it was unplugged. It's becoming harder to dismiss these murders as random. A detective in Oregon, one of the last working on the Toymaker killings, reaches out to independent researchers after finding something no one expected: The dolls left behind at each crime scene contain microscopic inscriptions beneath the porcelain glaze. Coordinates, dates, names. Many of them haven't disappeared yet. One name on the list belongs to a young boy in Kansas. Authorities are contacted. His family is placed under protective watch. But 6 days later, he vanishes from his locked bedroom. Just hours before the date marked in the doll, his window is closed. No footprints. Only one thing remains on the windowsill, a single black thread. So what are we looking at? A killer with foresight? A secret government program spiraling out of control? Or something older? Something that's been here longer than we've kept records? Historians begin noticing alarming similarities between these modern cases and unexplained. Mass vanishings from the 18th and 19th centuries, entire villages disappearing without trace. Colonial settlements in Virginia, mining camps in the Rockies, logging towns in Oregon. It's all gone, all without violence. And in every record, somewhere buried in the margins, the same phrases appear. The hum came first. The black thread, he waits in patterns. Now the fear is no longer just about what happened, it's about what will happen. Because the tapestry, if real, is no longer static. It's evolving, growing, pulling in more threads. What began as a look into forgotten cold cases has led us here to a place where answers are no longer the goal. It's only understanding. Through missing children, vanishing towns, cryptic symbols, voiceless warnings, and untraceable threads, we've come face to face with something far greater than a killer. We've glimpsed the outline of a truth buried beneath decades of silence, denial, and fear. We've seen how patterns are dismissed as coincidence, how grief is written off as paranoia, how unexplained phenomena are quickly covered, erased, locked behind red tape or corporate firewalls. But the evidence never really disappears. It lingers in boxes in abandoned police stations, in the static between audio frequencies, in the minds of those too afraid to speak, or too cursed to forget. And now, we must ask the final question. What happens when the thread stops pulling and begins pulling us? Because the tapestry may never be caught, never be arrested, never be displayed in court. It was never a person. It was never a face. It was a force, system of silence. A collection of tragedies strung together so delicately, so deliberately, we didn't recognize the design until it was too late. This isn't just a story about murder. It's about the fragility of reality, the cost of what we overlook. The haunting idea that behind every locked door, every flickering light, every hum in the night, something might be watching, something that remembers, something that waits. And maybe the most disturbing part. It was never about who was next. It was about who would notice. We may never truly know what lies behind the whispers, or what force wove these stories into existence. But perhaps the point was never to solve it. Perhaps it was to witness it, to speak it, to remember it together. Because some truths aren't meant to be found, they're meant to be shared. So if this journey moved you, chilled you, which made you feel something in your bones that you couldn't explain then, don't let it end here. Make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts or theories below. We read every single one. Share this video with someone who loves true crime, mystery, and the unexplained. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss what's coming next. There are more stories, more darkness, more truths waiting in the quiet corners of the world. When the next thread appears, we'll be here to follow it. Thank you for watching, and never stop asking questions.